You know, I really shouldn't have been surprised. And yet... Hello everyone, this is VG Master 2, another month, another missed opportunity to get Pokemon news. Well, let's talk about it anyway. Obviously, Teal Mask came out this month, so that's something, but that's it. Ignoring the leaks, which aren't even official, and didn't even happen during the week I predicted, I was wrong about the bi-weekly news thing. Not surprising, par for the course really. I guess it really was just a stroke of luck that we got news 3 weeks in a row, and they really just didn't want to throw us a bone. So, rip the dream of a consistent schedule. Though I guess that means I was right about them not doing anything until October, even though that was the thing I explicitly said I didn't want to happen, but I guess I'll just have to take what I can get. But with the release of the Teal Mask, we surprisingly have confirmation to quite a few topics I have talked about. So let's get into them and tie up some loose ends. First and foremost, we do have confirmation that Briar is Heath's descendant, and she's still super sus. BB Academy is in Unova. Damn, called it, but so did everyone else. And the characters in the code, Billy and Onair, were added in Teal Mask, which is neat. Though we really have no idea if they're supposed to be Nemona's parents or not. It was only ever in the base game's unused code that they were, but obviously they could have changed it, since they give zero indication that they even know who Nemona is, let alone that they're her parents. She said herself they were hands-off, but if the ones in-game are them, However, not every confirmation is so cool. Kitakami literally is in the middle of bumfuck nowhere in an unfully disclosed Japanese region in the middle of a generation about Spain, which is piss. Literally would have taken it being a Japanese-inspired settlement in France than this, but what the fuck ever, I shouldn't have expected Game Freak to be intelligent. Maybe it's actually part of Gen 10 and they wanted to take some of the workload off of themselves by making it early and incorporating it into this game? Who knows, but that would be the best case scenario, which means it almost definitely won't be the case. Also, Ogerpon is apparently female only. Oh yeah, because that's a woman. Fuck Crispin, I've been calling Ogerpon the wrong sex for over half a year. Rip. And Pheasantippity's a male. What the fuck? And while Pulch here does evolve, Diplin does not evolve. Yet. However, Eviolite works on him, and datamine code reveals that there's an empty slot for a new Pokemon that is meant to go right under him, which means that he will be evolving. On top of that, there's been a lot of other data mined for Part 2 in Part 1. Basically the return of Game Freak's old retardation days of not taking irrelevant data out. We can surmise what some of it means, but obviously not all of it. I'm not going over it, 1, because there's just so much, and 2, to spare some of you from spoilers, but also to spare myself from going crazy. I may mention some leaks if things relevant to them are revealed though. However, I will talk about the new Pokemon. Kinda. According to the code, there will be 8 new Pokemon in total. We know 4 of them are Archaludon, Terapagos, and the 2 revealed Paradoxes, and that 2 more will be the unrevealed Paradoxes, with the 7th being Diplin's Evo. Who's the 8th Pokemon? Well, actually, one thing that technically has been somewhat revealed is the 8th Pokemon, aka a 4th member of the Hero Trio, now technically a quartet, I suppose. This is actually in the released content itself. So, in the game, as it's been said many times, the dynamic between the heroes and Ogerpon has been that of the Legend of Momotaro. For a while, we mysteriously saw no indication of an equivalent to the eponymous Momotaro, but in the Teal Mask itself, we actually got a clue. In Ogerpon's backstory, in the section where it shows the heroes first arriving, there is a 4th being there. In fact, it starts fading in first. Searching through the files shows that there is a full asset for him that looks like this, and a model with the same shape that has been found in-game at a shop. this Peach Boy is likely not only the Momotaro equivalent, but also likely the one who apparently powered up the trio in the first place. And other leaked data indicates we will find and at least battle this boy in the Indigo Disk. You wanna know what else is in the code? Guess what? Another bug! Never end your streak of adding new bugs whenever you do anything. This time, the game somehow has a limit of being able to save only 300 battles. If you do more than that, the game will not record them, which typically would not matter, except in the very, very, very few parts that do, which in that case means you're just fucked. Pretty sure there are way more than 300 battles in most games in the series. How the fuck did you manage this? Surprisingly, only a week after the DLC came out, though luckily only a couple of days after the bug was first discovered, on the 20th of September, Pokémon announced that they were going to be releasing a patch for this issue, apparently among others, in October. Though, given their track record of not actually fixing the things they said they'd fix, and almost literally actually adding more bugs whenever they update this shit at all, maybe take it with a grain of salt. Last thing, on September 26th, it was announced that a physical version of Scarlet and Violet with the DLC will be released November 3rd, 2023. You might say, oh, so Indigo Disk is releasing before then. No. There's a reason why I didn't say Complete Edition, because despite the supposed purpose of this bitch being a Complete Edition, Indigo Disk is still apparently coming out after this, and you will have to update your game. What the fuck? Makes me wonder if we're getting more DLC, because not only does the eShop page for the game mention the possibility of further DLC, but they're going to have to re-release this bitch at a future date so Indigo Disk is on the cartridge, which they might as well do after releasing more shit so it's not entirely worthless. But fucking Pokemon is fucking stupid, what a surprise. And while this confirms Indigo Disk isn't coming earlier than November 3rd, there's still the rest of November, and it would be incredibly retarded to release the physical edition and then not release the second half of the purpose of the edition for over a month. Though, they are very retarded already. But this basically confirms that we are going to be getting this DLC in November. We just don't know the specific day. And that's really it. I could mention how Terapagos' in-game file name seems to be Kodaikame, and that the latest anime episode in Japan accidentally had the captions called Terapagos Kodaikame, and I just did, so there. Though there is one more thing I want to discuss. Going back to Momotaro. Quite a few people think the Momotaro legendary is going to be a Carbink Diancie level legendary connected to Glamora that is actually the one responsible for everything, because he seems to be the one who gave the chain to the trio, and maybe is influencing Kirin. And yes, there are people who believe this bitch is also responsible for what happened to everyone else too, despite it being heavily implied and actively teased since the base game that Terapagos is the one doing everything. What with his manipulating Heath, almost definitely making the Paradox Pokemon himself, the professors solely referring to him, corroborated by Heath's findings shown in not only the base game but in the very beginning of this DLC, to the point that Terra Orbs literally all hold gems that look near identical to Terapagos' dormant state. All signs point to Terapagos, and this new bitch would have also had to be deep within Area Zero 200 years ago for Heath, and 10 years ago when the professors made the Terra Orbs, at least. Despite it having gone all the way to Kitakami with the trio, and there being no seeming records of it by Heath, or especially the professors, given how the latter were practically experts of Area Zero. Last, it managed to escape back all the way to the super deep depths of Area Zero, with literally no one spotting it ever. And then he would have had to give Heath a vision of Terapagos, told him math equations, and then influenced the professors into creating the machine, even though Terapagos is almost definitely the one making the paradoxes coming out of the machine. Unless Momotaro's doing that too, but then that would make this fucker an Arceus level creation legendary. And then what the fuck is the point of Terapagos? Especially when it's confirmed that the crystals doing this shit come from Terapagos. Unless he's just the biggest red herring ever? It's a fucking confusing mess that doesn't work whatsoever. So, let me tell you, if Pokemon does a lol JK with all of that, and instead makes some random fucker they just added be the one responsible, I think at that point, I will implode. That's not to say you can't make Momotaro important in his own right. He can be a mutated Glamora, sure. He can be an extension of Terapagos. He can be responsible for some Kitakami shit. Just not responsible for literally everything. Don't take away everything that made Terapagos interesting and give it to him, who, again, we didn't even know could exist until Teal Mask came out, who technically still doesn't exist, while we knew about Terapagos since the base game dropped. But hey, Pokemon fans are notoriously retarded, and I've already mentioned how they're refusing to admit to Terapagos even making the paradoxes, and that Walking Wake therefore must somehow retcon Suicune's backstory. So it's easy to believe that they would believe this, even though it's unfathomably stupid and absolutely demolishes what will likely be a year of build-up. Though I must admit, I'm actually kind of scared Game Freak themselves might actually do this. Crossing my fingers they don't. But I guess we're gonna have to wait and see, huh? All that is just speculation. However, there is a decent theory floating around about Terapagos. I didn't make it, but it's interesting enough for me to want to cover it. So, with that said, I'm VG Master 2, and I hope to see you then.